Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's gotten a little chilly out here in Louisiana. Ever since my husband and I lived in Wyoming, it seems like that it's colder in the south to us than it was up there, relatively speaking. While living in Wyoming, I had a built-in barometer basically in my nose, yes, in my nostrils. Every time I walked out, if my nose hairs froze, I knew it was 0 or below. So that was a different kind of cold whenever the temperature got up to about, I don't know, 40, people broke out their flip-flops in Wyoming. So yeah, it was a different kind of chilly. So here is another one of my writings, and I'm going to read a little bit from the very rough draft of my beginnings of my memoir, because I don't have an editor yet, of course. I mean, I am my editor. So this one's called Unknown Spices, or Never Eat Anything That Makes Your Dog Foam at the Mouth. I can find inspiration to write something funny in the strangest places and weirdest of situations. Today's inspiration comes from a box of spices. Yes, spices. See, some friends of ours were moving to New York City and wanted to take nothing with them, and I mean nothing. The wife of the family was from India and liked to cook. So part of the nothing that she wanted to take to New York City was a big box of spices numbering about 100 or so. The box was first passed to my husband's best friend, who was also a close friend of this family. He got his first choice of the spices. Well, you know what that means. He got pick of the litter. We got left, well, with the leftovers. Things like unlabeled jars and foreign spices. Remember, the wife was from India, so there were some rather exotic things in there. I went through the box this morning. Most of the spices were the ones you'd expect, the normal spices. But then things got a little scary. One particular jar that was not labeled contained a bright yellow powder. I swear it looked like the tempera paint that I used in kindergarten, the kind that comes in powder form and has to have water added to use it. The family that I got this from did have a young child, so you never know. Maybe it was. I threw that one out. There were some spices like, well, first let me say this. Hooked on phonics never worked for me. I didn't actually learn to read with phonics. Being 53, we learn with Dick and Jane and Spot. So I never really learned phonics, and it has really hindered my career in pharmacy, I would say, just a little bit, because some of the drug brand and generic names I will not pronounce out loud, and I never have pronounced out loud. And if I have to, I get a little uncomfortable because I just don't know really how to do it. And my theory on how drug companies choose their prescription drug names is to get a poster of the alphabet, put it on the wall, and throw darts at it, and wherever the darts land, you go backwards, and that's the name of the drug. Like if it lands on A first, A will be the last letter of the drug. I mean, I can't think of any other way how they make this stuff up. Anyway, so these, I can't pronounce these right, so I'm sure I'll do okay, I guess. There were some spices like tandoori marsala and mango biryani marsala. The mango one had, the mango one said on the box, not curry powder. Now, I didn't know what to make of that one. Why would it say not curry powder? Was I supposed to mistake it for curry? I had really never had curry before. Another interesting one was called Chana Marsala Hygienic Flavorful Spice. Hygienic? Webster's Dictionary defines hygienic as conditions or practices conducive to good health. Okay, so this was a clean spice and supposed to be good for my health. That was nice to know. I wonder what a dirty spice is. I don't think I will be using that on my food. Nose itchy with these bugs out here. Besides, the expiration date of this spice was September 1996. Out with that one also. Another container was labeled cinnamon sticks. That sounded normal, a spice I am familiar with. Well, I opened it and it contained some cinnamon-smelling powder, not sticks. That right away told me to stay away from this particular bottle. It obviously had deteriorated to the point of decay, like old bones in a grave. There was a bottle that contained peanut-flavored sauce. I had never heard of such a thing, but the fact that it had some kind of gunk on the top and the words "keep refrigerated" on the label disqualified this sauce from being used on any food that I had. I doubt this bottle had seen a refrigerator in a long time. I prefer my peanut-flavored stuff to be peanut butter, specifically the smooth kind. Now I have a beagle, and this was written years ago. Now I have a peanut. I did have a beagle, now I have a peanut, and she is a mutt. Now I have a beagle, and you know how their noses are some of the best sniffers in the entire doggy world, right? Well, my dog was right there with me, her nose twitching with every breath. I let her smell some things, and once or twice she tried to lick them, but I wouldn't let her. I opened one particular bottle, and it made her foam at the mouth like when she tries to eat a toad. So that spice was definitely out, because if my dog can't eat it and she eats about anything, I was wary of it. Well, that was my experience with unknown spices. I'm really appreciative to my friend for giving these to me, but using someone else's spices is a little like using another person's hairbrush or toothbrush. I think I will stick with normal spices that I'm familiar with. And here is the beginning of my memoir, Pharmacist, Christian, Addict, a memoir of drugs, demons, and redemption. So where do I start? This book has been on my heart to write for many years now, but I feel that I just came to a good ending, or should I say new beginning, when I moved to Riverton, Wyoming from my lifetime home of Louisiana. Now, I am back in Louisiana. My husband and I moved back. The Kmart closed that I was the pharmacy manager of in Riverton, and it was way too cold for us, and we missed our kids. It has been a journey of drugs, tears, love, hope, and redemption. I have hesitated to write this because it will reveal many things about me that are very personal, things I have not wanted to make public. But this story, my story, is not complete without the good, the bad, and the ugly. Reserve your judgment until you read the entire memoir. Reserve your judgment until you have walked a mile in my shoes. I am a mother, wife, pharmacist, Christ follower, sister, daughter, and addict. Some of the years have sometimes not been easy. A lot of it I brought on myself, and I fully claim that. So grab a cup of joe, put your feet up, and prepare to take a journey with me. You won't regret it. Chapter 1, Beginnings. A story of a life always begins with a birth. Mine was on July 29th, 1967 in Monroe, Louisiana. That was the summer of love, by the way. I was born Karen Elizabeth Howington. I have a wonderful mother, Elizabeth Kirk Odom Fulton, and had an equally amazing father, Adrian Lee Odom, who died at age 47 of melanoma. Note to self, get yearly dermatologist checks. My childhood would be best described as idyllic. I am sure my sister, Tara Lee Odom Mercer, agrees. We lived on Orleans Street in Monroe, Louisiana, and had many great friends there. Days were long and sunny, filled with playing outside with our beagle McGregor. Oh, that McGregor, he was a scoundrel of a dog who dug out frequently from our backyard. Daddy would put cinder blocks on each escape route. I bet Mom didn't like all those against the fence, cluttering her pretty yard. And y'all should see her yard today. It's absolutely gorgeous. You're welcome, Mom. One day, on the way to church, we found McGregor hanging out on Lexington Avenue. Daddy got out in all his church finery and collected the escapee. Good times. There were mimosa trees, okra grown by Daddy, and a big oak tree in the yard. Behind our backyard was a drainage ditch that ran the entire length of our street. What great times were had playing in that. I grew up in the generation that actually played outside until the street lights came on and mosquitoes started biting. I am so thankful, this is like a side note, I'm so thankful that I did not grow up in the era of technology like today's kids. Now Atari did come out when I was, I guess it was junior high maybe, and although I didn't have an Atari, I would go to my best friend's house, Rachel's house, and I would play there. We also were the generation that started out with MTV. Yeah, so That was back when MTV did play music. Back to my story. Home-cooked meals were a daily thing. You haven't really eaten until you have had Southern cooking. I'm talking fried okra, fried chicken, homemade mashed potatoes, pot roast every Sunday. You get the idea. If you can eat it in the South, you can fry it too. And we do. Ever had a fried Twinkie? Put that one on your bucket list. Also put high cholesterol on your bucket list. Southern food will do that to you. My grandmother, Lily Marie Williams Kirk, was an amazing Southern cook. We called her Ma Marie. If we were coming to visit her, If we were coming to visit her and my grandfather, Neil Roseman Kirk, in El Dorado, Arkansas, she would start cooking a week in advance. No kidding. She would always have lady peas for my daddy and ham, which I called giant skin. I guess I thought it looked like what the skin of a giant would be. She had glass jars on the back of the dishwasher that always contained goodies. Those were the first things my sister and I attacked when arriving to Ma Marie's house. More good times. Ma Marie would drive us around El Dorado trying to get us lost. I never knew why, but she enjoyed that. She had a story for people in each house that we passed. That woman knew everyone and really never met a stranger, sort of like myself. We played board games for hours with her. She always took us to church. She was one godly woman. When she passed away, I lost a prayer warrior in my life. Only on the other side of this life will I know what she prayed me into or out of. My grandfather, whom we called Daddy Neil, was a wonderful man. He was quieter than my grandmother and frequently sat in his chair with whatever chihuahua they owned at the time. The dog's name was always Tina. They had about 3 Tinas throughout the time I knew them. Myself being a dog lover, it was hard to be snubbed by a couple of them. They were nervous yip-yaps and fiercely protected Daddy Neil. Only the last Tina they had let me pet and pick her up. Stupid dogs, they had no idea what they were missing by not letting me love on them. I am the original dog whisperer. More on that later. Ma Marie's house was a place of comfort. We would drive there from Monroe about once a month. Daddy loved to take shortcuts, roads that we had never been down. Sometimes it backfired and he really got lost. Of course, it goes without saying that this was the days before GPS. Yes, we had to use paper maps. Funny story. I have never been able to read a map very well. My husband and I were driving in South Louisiana one time and decided that we wanted to drive as far south as we could go. I was given the task of reading the map. So I proceeded to tell my husband to go to Highway 1, then 2. He proceeded to try to find Highway 1. Let's see. Go find the page. Bear with me. I've got to find. I've written so much different things. Well, surprise, surprise, no Highway 1 could be found. After pulling off the road and rescuing the map from my inept hands, he studied it with the eyes of a seasoned map reader. It turns out that what I was calling Highway 1 and 2 were actually mileage between 2 places. So yeah, I am very grateful for the modern technology of GPS. Back to my grandparents. My grandfather was a self-taught mechanic who could fix anything, and my grandmother was a bank teller all of her career. They certainly were salt-of-the-earth folks. Their home was welcoming and a source of endless entertainment for me. On the other side of my family of origin were my paternal grandparents, Van D. Odom and Melba Sims Odom. While my maternal grandparents were homey and country, this set was formal and elegant. My grandfather, Sannan, had a master's degree in history and held various prestigious jobs in Monroe, such as principal of Neville High School, superintendent of Monroe City Schools, and at LTI Boys School, and, registrar of Northeast Louisiana University. Back then it was called that. Now it is called University of Louisiana at Monroe. My grandmother had a teaching degree from Louisiana Normal College. Normal? Why is there an abnormal one as well? Now it is called Northwestern. Having 2 grandparents that were so well educated was an anomaly back then, and I'm very grateful for them for setting a standard of sorts for their kids and grandkids. Their house on Downey Lane in Monroe was very formal, and everything was always in its place, never cluttered. I spent many hours at her house studying for pharmacy school. She is the one who actually encouraged me to become a pharmacist. And so then this next section is called Becoming an Educated Drug Lord. I never really even wanted to be a pharmacist. I wanted to become a doctor. You see, my sister, brother-in-law, aunt, and uncle are all physicians. Back then, in 1985, there was a such thing as a pre-med degree. I really didn't want to go that route. I mean, what if I didn't get accepted into the hallowed halls of Louisiana State University School of Medicine? What kind of career would I eventually get? A med schooling job? It was then that Nana suggested that I go into pharmacy school as a pre-med degree. So when it came time to register for college, I proceeded confidently to Sugar Hall at NLU, which is where the pharmacy school was located. As I sat down in the dean's office to wait my turn, my eyes glanced around at the many pictures of chemist-looking people at work in various labs. All of a sudden, fear gripped me and told me that pharmacy would be too hard for me, especially all the chemistry. So I quickly left that office and proceeded to cross the street to the nursing building. As I started my schooling to be a nurse, I discovered that I loved inorganic chemistry. Yeah, I am that nerd. After earning a 4.0 GPA that first year, I came to the conclusion that I would become a pharmacist. So I changed my major from nursing to pharmacy, and in the process lost 19 credits. All was good though, and I began my journey to becoming an educated drug dealer. I earned a 4.0 GPA in pre-pharmacy, which was a 2-year program back then. But alas, as I proceeded through the professional pharmacy school, which was 3 years, I was happy with C's. As the saying goes, C is equal to RPH. I was going to make the same salary whether I graduated with the lower GPA as I would with the higher one, but it turned out that due to my 4.0 GPA from pre-pharmacy, I graduated with honors cum laude. While in the hard years of pharmacy school, I decided not to proceed to medical school. Pharmacy would have to be my career. I was burned out on school and ready to move on. And I want to give a shout out to my kids. Caroline is a nurse, and she graduated with honors cum laude, and she's now in nurse practitioner school. And Connor, my son, graduated, I guess the highest one is magna cum laude. He graduated with that, whatever the highest one is. Okay, so that's this installment. I will make another video later with some more. Thanks for listening, and see you later.